from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media, your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be here with you this Tuesday evening. It's a live edition of the program. We're doing continuing live coverage of the RNC in Wisconsin. Our phone number, if you want to join us, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And again, another day of a lot to talk about. I don't even know where to start. I mean, really, there's just a lot. I mean, you've got Joe Biden. I talked about this a little bit last week. Joe Biden did an interview in Wisconsin ahead of the RNC last week, I think. And the radio host was fired because they had said that they had requested to make some edits and the questions were required from the RNC and all sorts of things. Well, now it turns out there was a chock full of errors, this interview, and the actual audio has been released, and man, it is something else. I'm going to get to that in a little bit. It's really, really something. I want to take my time with it so that you can hear all of it. We've got that. We've got Senator Bob Menendez. He's been found guilty on all charges. We're going to get to that with one of his arch rivals from New Jersey, State Assemblyman Bob Auth, who is also a delegate to the RNC from New Jersey. And we'll get to that a little bit later. I just wanted to put that out there. And Biden continues his Babosada tour. He's out there being El Baboso wherever he goes. This time, let's see, where did he do it this time? It was on the NBC Nightly News just yesterday. Now, this is interesting because he's so aloof, he's so unaware that when people, including children, give him the middle finger and, FJB flags are hanging, F Joe Biden, he doesn't get the point. Instead, he looks at them like, they're extreme ultra MAGA. Listen to this.
Mr. President, you've been in politics a very long time, so let's speak frankly. We're all adults here. Has this shooting changed the trajectory of this race?
I don't know, and you don't know either.
I don't know, but something you've given thought to?
No, I've thought less about the trajectory of the case than two things. One, what his health is, that was secure, number one. And number two, what happens from here on in terms of the kind of coverage that the president and vice president and former president and new vice president get in terms of, look, I've never seen a circumstance where you ride through certain rural areas of the country and people have signs there, big Trump signs with middle signs saying F Biden, and a little kid standing there putting up his middle finger. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that is just inflammatory and a kind of viciousness. It's a very different thing than to say, look, I really disagree with the way he takes care of taxes, the way he wants a $5 trillion tax cut for people who are making a lot of money next time around. Doesn't focus on working class people.
Now, I got to tell you, listen, I understand what Biden's trying to say, but I also have to say, come on, which one of us is almost 80 years old or 81 years old, whatever he is, and has served in government for 50 plus years? Him, not me. So if anybody should know when you're not wanted and understand that, you're a public servant. If the public is giving you the bird, a big F-U, maybe you should think for a second and say, man, what is it that's going on here? How do I win these people over? I can tell you, Trump is not going to try and endear himself to every person. No politician is. But most will ask and find out what's going on. And at least try to find out and how you can meet people in the middle, find that middle ground. You are the president. I think you have that ability. It's not like you're a candidate. If you're an office holder, I think it's incumbent upon you to say, hey, listen, man, I love your free speech rights, but let's talk turkey here, pal. Come on, Jack, or whatever he says. Come on, man. And try to, use a little humor and figure out how to get to middle ground with these people. See what's going on. Say, what could I do to earn your vote? And I'm sure they'll tell him, stop being a communist, stop doing this, stop doing that, stop spending and printing money, stop, feeding the war machine, do more to end the conflict in Europe, do more to end the conflict in the Middle East. Stop exacerbating, problems around the world and making them worse. But nothing, right? We get absolutely nothing from Joe El Baboso Biden. And that's why I fault him, because I think he should know better. Now, listen, in my own life, I think it's uncouth. I do. And I guess this is a public confession, right? I believe that we should be civil with those that serve, right? But recently, it was the 4th of July, and there's a parade that comes right around my house. And Democrat Congressman Josh Gottheimer is the congressman in my district. And he was marching in the parade, campaigning, giving out, campaign literature. And it's the 4th of July, and a lot of people give out things, say, so-and-so celebrating the 4th. But he was just giving out, like, pamphlets. And these pamphlets were basically him saying, vote for me, vote for me. And he's just going, shaking people's hands arbitrarily. And, before he even got to me, I was, pretty loud voice telling him, hey, Josh, you got to do better. You're not serving the people. And he still came up to me, and I didn't want to shake his hand, and I didn't. And he was insulted by that. And I felt bad afterwards, honestly. I felt, I didn't need to disrespect him at that level. I could have shaken his hand and said, listen, you really do. I don't agree with you. I respect the office, but I don't agree with you, which is typically what I would advise anybody if you call this show. But I'm guilty. I snubbed him on a handshake, and shame on me. I shouldn't have done it. But my point was, I was angry. I was angry at the way he was handling this whole parade business, and he didn't care. He didn't seem to care about anything. He just wanted to glad hand around and hand out things that said, vote for me, vote for me. And there was a lot of people there that were, just short of booing him, kind of like when Governor Phil Murphy, last year, the year before, he was in the parade, and he got booed. But he didn't try to shake anybody's hand. Anyway, my point is, Biden, I think, is making that point that, look, I'm the president. You're going to hang out a sign that says F Biden. You don't have to have your little kids giving me the bird. Come on, that's not cool. Then you're wondering why people are getting shot. I see what he's saying. I disagree, though. I disagree, and I disagree with the media saying that is it potentially part of the reason Trump got shot because he's not conservative enough. I mean, you've got to be insane to think that that's actually going on. But Tom Winter, NBC News correspondent, was on the Morning Joke today. By the way, the Morning Joke didn't even play yesterday because they were concerned about, NBC was concerned about how they were commenting on the shooting and didn't even play it. But Tom Winter, he suggests that perhaps Trump was shot because he wasn't conservative enough. Listen to this.
I will caution people that it is possible that we might never know why this individual got on the roof that day. And I would also caution people think, well, it's anti-Donald Trump because this person doesn't like them, because their views are on the other side of the political spectrum. It is possible that Donald Trump, and there's a bit of a theory in law enforcement, is it possible that Donald Trump was not conservative enough for this individual?
Who cares? Why would that matter more than I don't like him because he was a past president? I don't like him because his hair is orange. I don't like him because my president tells me that another 4 years of Trump would be deadly, right? We read all those quotes from Twitter yesterday. Or because he's a threat to democracy, or because of this and because of that, because 2025, Agenda 2025 or Project 2025 is the worst thing ever. How are we going to pick this one thing? And again, I don't know why Trump was shot. Nobody does. So sure, you want to posit that, go ahead and posit that idea. But the bottom line for me is I think it's insane to think that. If anything, probably because he's too conservative, right? Because he's moderate on certain issues, because he's so pro-LGBT, he's so pro lots of things that I think folks across the spectrum could rally around. But when it comes to being too conservative, I don't think anybody's trying to shoot Trump for that, honestly. But this is the point, though. Trying to pin it on, it's the extreme far right, and this is what they were trying to do. They're trying to kill the guy. No, come on. The extreme far right isn't trying to kill the guy. And I understand the guy was a registered Republican, this 20-year-old kid. The point I'm making, and I think everybody gets it, is the media will try and spin you one way or the other, and you've got to have your wits about yourself, like you do in this audience. I think everybody listening to this stuff is, an avid news consumer. But the rest of the world listens to this, like the Amber Roses of the world, who yesterday said she'd been lied to by the media forever and a day. And people are coming full circle with these lies and saying, you know what, you're full of it. Anyway, there's more to come. We got so much more. We got Joy Reid picking on Trump, saying he can't be a hero and a victim. Lots to discuss. Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, both speaking at the RNC. We've got a live update from our Westwood One correspondent coming up next. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. This is America. This is Night. This is Rich Valdez.
As a citizen, as a husband, and as a father, I am alarmed that the current president of the United States lacks the capability to discharge the duties of his office. Our enemies do not confine their designs to between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. We need a commander-in-chief who can lead 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. America cannot afford 4 more years of a weekend at Bernie's presidency.
And that is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis addressing the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin a little while ago. And I want to get an update on what's going on at the RNC. We're going to speak with RNC Chairman Michael Whatley, co-chair with Lara Trump. He's coming up in the next segment. We've also got a special treat. We've got Westwood One correspondent Steve Futterman. He's live. He's on the ground in Milwaukee at the RNC. Steve Futterman, welcome, sir.
Great to be with you, Rich.
My pleasure. Happy to have you. And tell us what's going on. What was the reaction like to Ron DeSantis giving that fiery speech?
Well, I mean, listen, this is a very partisan crowd. They loved it. You're speaking the language they want. They're mocking Joe Biden for what they perceive as his schedule, his daily schedule. They're making it sound like he goes to sleep at 4 p.m. Sure, he doesn't. But, when you have a convention, when you have the TV, you make comments like that, and it went over very well. The crowd loved it. The big story tonight, news-wise, and we should mention that Donald Trump is in the arena tonight with the ear bandaged again. Next to him is J.D. Vance, his vice presidential candidate. So they're listening to all speeches again. But I think the big story tonight was Nikki Haley delivering her speech. Yeah, as you know, that was quite a contentious battle between Haley and Trump, especially when they got to New Hampshire. She had some pretty strong language at Trump, and Trump had some pretty strong language aimed at Haley. Maybe went beyond what you normally expect in a primary campaign, because the language is usually tough, but this got a bit personal at times. But that's the way it's been pretty much during the Trump era. But she gave what I think was a conciliatory speech. It was very interesting at the very start, Rich. She said, President Trump asked me to speak tonight. And then the camera went to Trump, and he said something. I'm trying to figure out what he said. I've been looking online to see if there's some lip readers. It would be interesting to see if he seemed to be had a bit of a smirk on his face when she said that. But she gave the speech that you would expect her to give. She said she endorses Donald Trump fully. She said the country, obviously Republican lines, cannot afford 4 more years of Joe Biden. And then basically she also appealed to Republicans. She said at some point, she said, not everyone agrees with Donald Trump with everything. And she said almost with a smile, I know some of them. And then, but then she talked about why she feels that Donald Trump is the person to vote for. She also talked a bit about Kamala Harris, basically saying the country cannot afford to have the possibility of Kamala Harris being president. She didn't say it in those exact terms, but she inferred that. So it was a pretty nice speech. Now, when she was introduced also, listen, a lot of the people there, most of the people there are very strong Trump supporters. They were not very happy with what Nikki Haley said earlier in Iowa, in New Hampshire, and afterwards. They did not give her a rousing ovation when she came out. There seemed to be some people who were less than pleased. You could see the camera switching into some people who were like waving her off. But generally, she gave the speech you expected her to give. She is a candidate who did fail to beat Trump. She's there to, show unity. DeSantis received a much more, I would say, loud ovation. His candidacy against Trump, although at times was contentious. Remember, he kept calling him Ron the Sanctimonious. That's right. I'll tell you, these names become part of the lexicon at times.
Right.
But his speech was much more receptive, and he is much closer to the Trump ideas than Nikki Haley is. So tonight's been a night for the defeated candidates to come on stage. Right now, Marco Rubio is about to speak, I think. And we've had also Vivek Ramaswamy. So these are not the losers, or the candidates who failed to win. They are speaking tonight and praising Donald Trump. You always have that at a convention.
Of course. And folks, we're on with Steve Futterman, Westwood 1 correspondent on the ground in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And Steve, if you'll indulge me, I have a short clip from Nikki Haley's speech where she was addressing immigration. I want you to hear it and then tell me how the audience reacted. Listen to this.
Look at the border. It's the single biggest it's the single biggest threat Americans face. Under Joe Biden, migrants are coming into our country by the thousands every day. We have no idea who they are, where they end up, or what they plan to do. And let me remind you, Kamala had one job, and that was to fix the border. Now imagine her in charge of the entire country.
Steve Futterman, it seems that she definitely struck a chord on the immigration note.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is and by the way, we should point out tonight is sort of safety night. Every night has a theme. Tonight is sort of let's make America safe again. And what is the issue that Republicans focus most on? It's the border. It's the southern border. It's the people coming across the border, which they feel should not be coming across right now, illegal immigration. And it's a big issue for Republicans. It's an issue they think is something they can work very well in the general election. And they've been focusing on that tonight. And that's one of the areas where I think all Republicans seem to be in agreement, whether it's Haley, DeSantis, Trump, Vance, etc. And I will point out, Rich, during the 10 to 11 o'clock Eastern time hour, which is usually the prime time hour, at least historically it's been the prime time hour, brought on some people who have had family members victimized, killed by people who came across the border illegally. So some of these were very emotional speeches as well. So that's what they've been focusing on quite a bit as well. And again, a very receptive thing. Nikki Haley has no issues with the issue on Trump's issues on the southern border. Now, she did not bring up Ukraine at all. I'll point that out. That's an issue where she strongly disagrees with Trump. And by the way, one more thing, neither Haley nor DeSantis ever mentioned the name J.D. Vance. They could be running against J.D. Vance in 4 years.
That's right. Great point. Steve Futterman, excellent reporting, excellent newsman. Hope to have you back tomorrow night. Thanks for being here, Steve. And folks, straight ahead, we've got the chairman of the Republican Party, Michael Whatley, joining us. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
So it's day 2 of the RNC, the Republican National Convention, and there's plenty going on, plenty to talk about. I want to get to the bottom of it with the co-chair of the RNC, Michael Whatley. Michael Whatley, welcome back, sir.
It's good to be on with you, sir.
You bet. So in years past, I think we've seen RNC conventions that were kind of, humdrum, You know what to expect. You know what's going on. I have to say, this one has been kind of different in so much as we don't know what the next step is going to be, right? I mean, you know, they have these themed days, and that's terrific. But one of the things that I thought was interesting was I said, you know, Trump is a very different type of candidate. And being a different candidate, I thought to myself, is he really going to wait till the fourth day of the convention to make his appearance after this attempted assassination? And on Friday, I was beside myself thinking, I can't imagine he's just going to wait till Friday. And of course, he came out and he had the whole Lee Greenwood thing, and I thought that was fantastic. And do you feel that same energy, that this is a very different convention than others past?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And we designed it to have this conversation directly with the American people about the issues that they care about. And we want to show how unified the Republican Party is. And then President Trump really wants to be able to demonstrate to all of America that he is going to be a president for every American family. And he is going to spend all day, every day, working on the issues that the American people care about. They care about immigration and the invasion that we've had at our southern border. They care about inflation and the cost of gasoline, groceries, and housing. And they care about our standing in the world and whether we're going to have a secure America here at home and abroad. Donald Trump is our candidate, is going to restore our southern border. He is going to restore our economy, and he's going to restore our standing in the world. And so this convention, from start to finish, is all about a conversation with the American people, and we're very excited. It has been an electric first day. It's been an electric second day, and we're very excited about the pace, the tempo, all of the different speakers that we've had.
RNC Chairman Michael Whatley, I agree with everything you said. And something that I find interesting is when you say you're bringing this conversation directly to the American people, this has been part of the conversation that the listeners and I have been having for the last couple of days, which has been that it seems like there's really a, for lack of a better word, a real populist movement when you have convention speakers like Amber Rose, who spoke last night and said that she'd found her home because she realized she was lied to by the mainstream media. How much of that are you experiencing, these, I guess, first-time new Republicans?
Tons of it. Absolutely. We are seeing it from one side of this country to the other. And you know, that's why we are focusing on not just, people like Amber who are brand new to the Republican Party fold, but we're really focusing also on everyday Americans. What we want to hear from are the people that are affected by the policies that Joe Biden has unleashed on this economy and on this country, and that are here because they support Donald Trump, because he's going to make America great again. And these are people that you've never heard of before. They're people who, until a week ago, I'd never heard of before. And they have come here from all walks of life, from all across the country, to be able to tell their story directly to everybody across the country.
What is that? I guess, what does it look like and what does it feel like? You know, what are these your typical Republican voters? Do you feel like they're outside of the norm of your typical Republican voter? And what does it feel like to have that energy in the room?
You know, what we're doing is obviously talking to the hall. And the hall is just absolutely amazing. When you think about it, we've got 50,000 delegates, guests, and members of the media that are here in Milwaukee. The floor is electric. The vibe is electric. I can tell you, when President Trump came into that room last night, it was one of the most powerful political moments I have ever experienced. And so, you know, we're very, very excited about what's happening in the hall. But again, our purpose is really to talk to everybody who's not in the hall. And so we've got 700 media outlets. We've got digital teams that are here, that we are broadcasting this convention on every single conceivable platform. We've got 35,000 credentialed media members here to talk to and talk with and talk through to get our message out. And you know that nobody in this country can communicate with the voters directly the way that Donald J. Trump can do that. And so we are using this convention as a platform to get his message out that he is going to be the one to restore America.
Chairman Whatley, what do you think about the response that we've gotten from the White House, from the Democrats, in particular President Biden, with respect to the failures of security, and I'm going to say the failures of the media to really respond to this accurately?
Well, I think that, right now we see a White House that is in free fall. We see a candidate in Joe Biden who is spiraling right now. We see a Democratic Party that is in a circular firing squad. What we're going to do on our side is we're going to hit our marks. We're going to have a fantastic convention. Donald Trump is going to be delivering a message on Thursday night that is going to resonate with every American family. And then when we're done with this convention, we're going to go back home. We're going to roll up our sleeves, and we're going to go to work to make sure we win.
Now, Chairman Whatley, I know that there's an electric vibe out there, and I think it's fantastic. I think we could see it on television. We could hear it from those that we've been speaking to. For those that are not there with you guys, what is your message to the American people that are listening right now, coming from the chairman of the RNC, co-chair Michael Whatley?
Donald Trump is going to fight for every American family. He is going to wake up every single morning and focus on the issues that American families care about, issues like the economy and jobs, issues like security and safety. We are going to make America great again, and we're going to do it by focusing on the issues that every American family cares about, and we are going to restore our economy, we're going to restore our southern border, and we're going to restore our standing in the world.
People that are watching Amber Rose and listening to Chairman Michael Whatley and listening to Donald Trump when he speaks on Thursday and observing everybody, the wonderful speeches that are coming out of the RNC convention in Wisconsin, how do you encourage them to take action on anything that they've observed and they want to move forward with?
Look, I think there's two things that we want every Republican across the country and every patriot across the country to do. We want them to go to TrumpForce47.com and sign up to be part of our grassroots effort. And we want them to go to ProtectTheVote.com and sign up to be part of the country's first election integrity program, national election integrity program. When I became the chair of the RNC, I told Donald Trump, I told him I was going to do two things with the RNC. We are going to focus on getting out the vote and protecting the ballot, and that's why we're here.
Outstanding. RNC Chair Michael Whatley, I want to thank you for being here, sir. Godspeed on a great convention. You are a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. Thank you, sir.
All right. Take care, sir.
You bet. All right, folks, more to come straight ahead. Your calls and more coming up. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. We continue our coverage of the RNC, Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And moments ago, the governor of Arkansas, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, took to the stage and making some very bold statements that you're about to hear a little bit of. But my favorite was that not even an assassin's bullet could stop Donald Trump. Listen to this.
And before I get started, I want to say I have always been proud to stand with President Trump, but never have I been more proud than to stand with him right now, tonight. Not even an assassin's bullet could stop him. God Almighty intervened because America is one nation under God, and He is certainly not finished with President Trump.
All right, that is, again, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders at the RNC convention tonight, just a little while ago. And I want to, get some of your reaction to that, because I know there's a few people on hold, and I want to get to them. I also want to get to some audio, because there's some really good audio from our friends on the left, like Joy Reid and others, who are just really beside themselves. They really, really are beside themselves. I mean, I think the vitriol, the hate is even stronger now, almost as if they're upset that this assassin's bullet didn't get the job done. Now, that's my hyperbole. None of them have said that, except for one of the guys that's in a band that plays with comedian actor Jack Black, and we'll get to that in a little bit. And they had to suspend their tour, so we'll get into that in a little bit. But I want to hit the phones. Let's see. Where do we go? We've got Frank, Evergreen, Montana, KOFI. Frank, go right ahead.
Hi, Rich. Yeah, I was looking into the history of the surname Crook. You know, that's in Old England. It would be like a bend in the river. There might be an old guy with a cabin and a bend in the river, and they would have a hook to guide you in to shore or something like that. But Chicago and Cook County, all the politicians are known as crooks, and then again, if Biden wants to get on national stand again and explain his situation with this crook character,
yeah,
he can always just do his Nixon imitation and say, "I'm no crook."
I am not a crook, with the jowls jiggling. I finally got it. Thank God the punchline was worth the wait. I appreciate it. Frank, Evergreen, Montana, KOFI. Let us continue. Let's go to Bill. Bill's in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, KDKA. Bill, go right ahead.
Hi, Rich. Being from Pittsburgh, I mean, I'm not trying to put a black eye on Pittsburgh, but Butler, where this assassination attempt took place, is about 40 minutes north. If you keep going, you'll run right into Erie County, Lake Erie. Anyways, Rich, I totally do not believe that this kid, I know the city he lives in. I drove through them many times.
What is it that you don't believe?
I don't believe that he had acted on his own.
Oh, I don't think anybody's saying that. I just don't think they've found out who he might have been working with.
That's okay.
Because I haven't heard lone wolf shooter or anything like that. I mean, it seems pretty sophisticated to take a shot at a presidential candidate who happens to have been a former president because of the level of Secret Service protection that they get. And like Donald Trump, on a regular basis, just because he's a former president and a candidate, has way more security than Bill Clinton has. And he's also a former president. And I think he even gets a couple extra ones because of that active threat against him from Iran. So, yeah, I haven't heard the theory yet. I mean, I did hear, like we played earlier, the one person from MSNBC that said maybe he was shot because he wasn't conservative enough. Or, Joy Reid, who's got a very silly comment out there saying that Trump was shot because he can't milk this being a victim and a martyr. And, just the left is beside themselves with this. But ultimately, I don't know what's going on with this kid. I mean, I had somebody either called me or they sent me a Facebook or one of those messages on social media. And what their contention was that this was part of an old CIA program called MK Ultra, where you can use certain words to activate people that were being programmed by trinks and whatnot. I don't know a ton about it. I've read a little bit about it. I know it's a thing from the 50s, and and that's what we're supposed to all believe, is that it started in the 50s and ended in the 50s and never continued to today. But I don't know. I don't know any of that for certain. But as their contention was that when Biden started, publicly calling for, we got to put Trump in the bullseye and whatnot, that these are the trigger words that activate these people that are being hypnotized or whatnot. Sounds fantastical for sure. But so does the idea of you picking up a phone and hearing this screeching sound that messes up your brain, right? Like the whole Havana syndrome thing. There's a lot of very interesting warfare that goes on. So I don't discount anything out of hand because, we've seen so many crazy surprises. But at the same time, I've got zero proof. But I don't think for a second, I agree with you, I don't think for a second the kid acted alone. Too sophisticated of a plan. How did he get up there? Did he climb the whole thing? Was there a ladder there? Was there not a ladder there? There's so many just questions to ask. He suspected that he was going to get away. I saw a report today that said he called his job and asked for the day off on Saturday and said he'd be back on Sunday. Now, maybe he was never going to come back. Maybe he was a martyr and thought that he'd be shot after he completed his mission. I don't know. I don't know any of it. But if you're saying you're going to be back on Sunday, maybe he thought it was coming back Sunday. So did he think that he was going to get away with it? Was there a getaway driver that they didn't catch? Who knows? I don't have any of the answers, but hopefully we'll find some of the answers. And I'm looking at Kim Cheadle and Joe El Baboso Biden. I don't know if I'm going to get the answers I'm looking for, but I'm looking at them nonetheless. Brother, thanks for your call. I appreciate it, Bill. Big shout out to everybody in KDKA country in Pittsburgh. And by the way, you're never going to guess what the FBI director said about why they ignored that building. More after this.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
That building in particular has a sloped roof at its highest point. And so, there's a safety factor that would be considered there, that we wouldn't want to put somebody up on a sloped roof. And so, the decision was made to secure the building from inside.
Yep, that's not a comedy skit. It's not satire. That is the director of the Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadle, who said that she was concerned about putting an agent on a sloped roof because it might injure one of her agents, let alone, forget about injuring Trump, a potential shooter, or killing Trump, right? This would-be assassin, that was his goal. This is like unbelievable that they are in charge of anybody's life. When you look at the leadership here, just insane to me. The only reason people aren't dying and dropping like flies is because of the brave men and women that have experience, that are doing their job well. The people that haven't been infected by diversity, equity, and inclusion. Absolutely crazy. She also revealed that this person was a potential person of suspicion, but by the time units were able to track him down, he'd already managed to open fire at the rally. Local law enforcement identified this guy because they thought he was walking around with a rangefinder. And then they notified the state police, who said, well, it might be binoculars. Hold on a second here. A guy in camouflage, whether he's got binoculars or not, go check the guy out. Isn't that what you're there for? Absolutely ridiculous. If this stuff is true, man, we have to do better. We have to do better. I don't feel safe. Anyway, folks, we're coming right back. Lots more to come. Bob Menendez, guilty on all charges. A lot more straight ahead. Rich Valdez, don't go anywhere.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, Here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Your liberty-loving Latino amigo, happy to be here with you. Hour number 2, Tuesday night edition of the program. We continue our coverage of the RNC, and if you want to join us, give us a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. Moments ago, actually, Laura Trump is still addressing the crowd. And right prior to that, we had Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who had made a very, very impassioned speech. And, of course, I'm going to try and bring you the Laura Trump as well. But I feel it's so fitting to bring you the the Sarah Huckabee Sanders, because of what she said, and an encore is due. Listen to this.
And before I get started, I want to say I have always been proud to stand with President Trump, but never have I been more proud than to stand with him right now, tonight. Not even an assassin's bullet could stop him. God Almighty intervened because America is one nation under God, and He is certainly not finished with President Trump.
And Sarah Huckabee Sanders again, talking about how God isn't done with President Trump because God has a plan for him. And I believe that to be true, as I believe it's to be true in my life and in so many lives. I believe that God has a plan for everybody, right? And one person in particular who has an amazing story, former Marine, telecoms executive, David Scarlett, has a remarkable story, and he's put this story to paper in a book called All for His Glory, the near-death experience of a modern-day Job. And he's the chairman and the founder of his own ministry, and it's a Christian outreach, and he's with us now. David Scarlett, welcome, sir.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Likewise. So I want to talk a little bit about what inspired you to write the book. Obviously, you went through something, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about, your testimony, your story, and then tell us why you decided to put it into a book.
Well, it took 17 years to actually put it, actually longer than that, but it's been a while. It started as you said, I was a Marine, and I rose up the corporate ranks. I was making a lot of money. I had a lot of fame, and I had a big head. I thought that was the American dream, and then I had a severe marital issue, and I could have ran and left, which most people do, but I got on my knees and sought the face of the Lord, and we reconciled. And then about several months later, I took botulism toxin and a food, and I went to the Cleveland Clinic. My entire neuro system shut down. Everything shut down. There was 9 people that actually ate the chili. 7 died. 1 still is on a respirator as today, and then myself. And then I had three death experiences, 2 near-death experiences. And the first near-death experience, they were taking the tube away, and I see the panic on the doctors' faces, and it's one of those times when you see the Cleveland Clinic and you know it's over. I'm done. I'm not going to see my wife. I'm not going to see my kids again. And I was taken up to the throne room of heaven, and I saw the glory. I saw the peace, the love, the joy. It's just like the Apostle Paul talks about. It's just beyond words. It's so magnificent and so real. He showed me all these mahogany, beautiful pictures of all my life. They were pictures that were never taken on earth. One thing he showed me in those pictures was that everything in heaven was perfection. It was perfect. And if it wasn't for my first marital problem, I don't think I would have ever gone to heaven. But because of the marital situation, I got on my knees and sought the face of the Lord, and I made it to heaven by the skin of my teeth. But what the Lord showed me through the Holy Spirit later was that my report card was empty. There was nothing I did in those pictures that were for him. So he brought me back. I came back after the first near-death experience, and after experiencing heaven and all that joy and love and peace and hope and just perfection, I asked to see Jesus. And I couldn't even get that prayer out of my mouth, and there he was, radiating at the foot of my bed in the ICU in the Cleveland Clinic, and just giving me that joy, peace, hope, and just the glory, just radiating like he does in the book of Revelation, just beaming. And then they took me off another time. I had many bleeding stomach, pneumonia, one step forward, two steps back. So it was a long ordeal, 2 months in the ICU, not being able to move. So they finally take me off the second time, and they had every single doctor in the Cleveland Clinic ready this time because they knew the first time it went horribly bad. Well, as soon as they pulled the tube again, it went horribly wrong, and I saw the panic in their faces. And there's 30 ICU doctors at the Cleveland Clinic just panicking. Come back, come back, come back. You can beat this. And I said to the Lord, I had that peace and joy again. I didn't feel any pain whatsoever. I said, Lord, why are they panicking? And he says, I got you, my son. I'm going to send you back. You're going to start a ministry called by my name, His Glory. Well, I'm the least likely person on the face of the earth, being a Marine and rose up the corporate ladder to even know what running a ministry or being a pastor was all about. But that's how God works. He always uses the least likely. And so there was a period of time that I had to learn to walk, talk, eat, do everything again, just as I was a young child, because everything is shut down. And a lot of that is fatigue and pain comes with the after effects of botulism toxin too. But God also used that for his perfect plan. He gave me that time that I had to rely on him to seek his face and get into his word. So I was in a wilderness period before he released the ministry and told us how to do his glory. And now today we reach 25 million people in every country of the world and continue to grow. And our goal is to hit 1 billion souls for Jesus Christ.
Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot. I just want to backtrack a little bit. So now you ate this chili, or did you make this chili that got the botulinum toxin in it?
I went and bought it. There was an outbreak of botulism toxin, and 9 people got it. 7 died, 1 on a respirator. Then me, I'm the only one that recovered. And it's fatal. If you get botulism toxin, and the day that I ate the chili was the 7th day of the 7th month of 07, 777. Wow. Later on, Ricky Skaggs, the famous musician who was a friend of mine, happened to be playing in Nashville on 777 and blew the shofar called the call. Well, God called me on 777. That's what he called me. He said, I'm calling you out of the world to start a ministry called by my name, His Glory. So long story short, that same shofar that Ricky Skaggs blew on 777, the same day I ate the chili, he handed that to me in front of about 15,000 people in Tulsa, Oklahoma a few years ago, just because God told him to give it to me because it was my call.
Wow. Now, Pastor, I want you to let everybody know how they can get a copy of your book.
They can go to www.hisglory.me. That's our main website, and you can get it there, all for His Glory. You can also pick up on Amazon as well. So in both places it's available.
Outstanding. Well, David Scarlett, it's quite an inspiring story, and I'm glad you're still around. I'm glad you're doing the Lord's work, and I appreciate you sharing that story with our audience. You are a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. I appreciate it, sir. Have a good night.
Thank you. God bless you.
You too. Folks, we're coming right back. Your calls, more on the RNC convention. I got some audio for you. Plus, we still have to get into Menendez. Menendez found guilty on all charges. We've got a delegate to the RNC that's joining us at the bottom of the hour, who happens to be an arch rival of Bob Menendez from New Jersey. That's Assemblyman Robert Auth is scheduled to be with us. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Mr. Call Screener, who is a budding radio star, by the way. Richie Valdez is terrific.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, folks, we continue our coverage of the Republican National Convention in Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Lara Trump just took to the stage. Here's what she had to say.
6/11 on Saturday evening. Nothing prepares you for a moment like that. Our family has faced our fair share of death threats, mysterious powders sent to our homes, tasteless and violent comments directed towards us on social media. But none of that prepares you as a daughter-in-law to watch in real time someone try to kill a person you love. None of that prepares you as a mother to quickly reach for the remote and turn your young children away from the screen so that they're not witness to something that scars the memory of their grandpa for the rest of their lives. The prayers and well wishes we've received over the last 72 hours have been overwhelming, to say the least.
Lara Trump, again, co-chair of the RNC, or as I like to refer to them, chairwoman and chairmen. Great team, Lara Trump and Michael Whatley, and really robust convention that they've put on. Now, I want to get to some of your calls. I also want to get to some audio clips that we have, because really there's just so much out there. Again, this Kim Cheadle, she says the buck stops with her. You've got Adam Kinzinger and, I'm forgetting his name, Joel Baboso Biden. How could I forget him? Both saying the same thing, that just because they tried to kill Trump doesn't mean we have to stop telling the truth. Right? You've got Kinzinger saying that we can't be intimidated away from telling people that Trump is a threat to democracy. Listen to Adam Kinzinger with Stephen Colbert.
How do we talk about where we are in this election without crossing the line between free speech and inflammatory rhetoric?
Well, and this is very important, because what you're actually going to see right now, and you're starting to see a little bit on the Republican side, is trying to intimidate those around Joe Biden from telling the truth about Donald Trump. Look, anybody that is rational and sane knows when you say things like we have to stop Donald Trump or Donald Trump is a threat to democracy, that we're talking about dealing with that in a political context, not in a violent context. And in case there's anybody that thinks it's a violent context, let's make it very clear now. We're talking about a political context. But what we can't do, and this is what I get worried about, is that we're going to be intimidated away from telling the American people the truth, which is Donald Trump truly is a threat to democracy in this country, and we have to stop that. But we stop it at the ballot box.
You know, it's funny. The only threat to democracy that I see is trying to kill Donald Trump, right? Democracy is, the majority rule. So let's call it an election, right? Elections are part of the small D's, democratic process. If people believed in democracy, we would allow Trump and Al Sharpton and Kinzinger and anybody else who wants to run, we'd allow them to run for office, right? That's what we do. But no, they don't believe in democracy. So they want to kill Trump. And they want to say that his existence threatens democracy. I mean, it's the craziest thing I've heard. Anyway, before I get into Joy Reid and the rest of it, I want to go to John in Vero Beach, Florida, calling us from WTTB. John, go right ahead.
Yes, Rich, it's an honor and a pleasure once again.
Thank you. Likewise.
Yeah, I've been out of circulation with some cancer treatments.
Oh, man. Well, anyway, my best to you. I hope you're doing better.
Yeah, thanks to Cleveland Clinic, yes, and my VA.
Amen.
Anyway, I just wanted to say that from what I understand, the Secret Service at the top, not the Secret Service agents, the operatives on the street, but their leaders and this administration have deliberately underfunded and thereby undermanned and undermined the Secret Service coverage of these various Trump rallies, thereby opening the door for a nearly perfect shot from that building, that one building that was left unsurveilled, at the podium. I mean, it's mind-boggling.
It truly is. You know, I'm literally, while you're speaking to me, I'm watching a video of this guy, you know, crawling on the roof. There's 6, 7, 8 people screaming, "There's a guy on the roof!" One guy, what do you mean? You hear him in the cell phone video telling the cop, "Hey, officer, there's a guy on the roof." There's half a dozen people, maybe 8 or 9. They're all looking at this guy. One lady's like, "He's on the roof!" I mean, everybody's screaming, the guy's on the roof. You've got the sniper that's there doing all sorts of things. And the whole thing is just so bizarre to me. So bizarre. And part of what I think is so interesting about this is that this actually happened. That, you know, we spend all the money that we do. We provide all the training we do. We are supposed to have the best Secret Service protection for our presidents, and they're supposed to be best in class. And ultimately, nada, right? Nada. Trump saved his life, right? God saved Trump's life because he turned his head. I'm beside myself with incredulity here. I can't believe it happened. I can't believe that they're defending it. I can't believe she says that it was a sloped roof. I can't believe they said it was outside of our perimeter. I can't believe the local PD said, "Oh, it looked like he had, a rangefinder," and then the state police and the conversation that ensued was, "Oh, maybe it was binoculars and he was trying to get a good view of the rally." A guy wearing hunting gear, camouflage. I mean, what world are we on, John?
Yeah, that makes you wonder. It's from the top down. It's got nothing to do with the people in the field that are doing a wonderful job, risking their lives every day to protect our elected officials. It's the top brass. It's from the top.
Absolutely.
The funding, the undermining of our Secret Service.
You're right. And there was a report that we played on that yesterday. Maybe I'll play it again in the next hour, where the Secret Service director is, kind of bragging about how she's bringing social media influencers to go on training with the new recruits, and they're looking to have 30% of the Secret Service be women. And again, I have no attacks on women. I think women are great. I love them. But I think you should have a goal to have 30% of the best, most qualified people, period. Whatever race they are, whatever religion they are, whatever gender they are, it doesn't matter to me. Just pick the best of the best. And that's the problem that we have. You're right. They're undermanned and undermined. John in Vero Beach, WTTB, thank you. Folks, straight ahead, Bob Auth and Bob Menendez found guilty. I'm Rich Valdez.
And live on the air, it's Rich Valdez.
All right, familia, welcome back, amigos. We continue our conversation and our coverage on the RNC. And I want to do that with New Jersey State Assemblyman Bob Auth. This is a tale of two Bobs, arch rivals. One a United States Senator, one a New Jersey State Assemblyman. And you remember we had Assemblyman Auth on this program telling us about how fake and phony and fraudulent Bob Menendez was probably close to 2 years ago. And now we've got the United States Attorney for the District of New York telling us the exact same thing. Listen to this.
Moments ago, a jury in this courthouse convicted Senator Robert Menendez of corruption and national security offenses. This case has always been about shocking levels of corruption. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes in the form of cash, gold bars, or Mercedes-Benz. This wasn't politics as usual. This was politics for profit. And now that a jury has convicted Bob Menendez, his years of selling his office to the highest bidder have finally come to an end.
Now, that was the report outside the courthouse. Bob Menendez fired back immediately afterwards. Listen to this.
Obviously, I'm deeply, deeply disappointed by the jury's decision. I have every faith that the law and the facts did not sustain that decision and that we will be successful upon appeal. I have never violated my public oath. I have never been anything but a patriot of my country and for my country. I have never, ever been a foreign agent, and the decision rendered by the jury today would put at risk every member of the United States Senate in terms of what they think a foreign agent would be.
All right, so there you have it, both sides of the story. Let's go to our guest, Robert Auth, Assemblyman for District 39 in New Jersey. Bob Auth, welcome back, sir.
Richard Valdez with an S. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. And I forgot to mention, everybody, you are live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the RNC. Of course, you're a delegate to the RNC, so I could hear some of the activities in the background. Give us your reaction to what is going on with Senator Menendez.
Well, I think Senator Menendez has been dealt a blow. It's pretty clear he's going to have a very, very tough road to hoe. He's going to have an uphill climb. If he thinks he's going to get some sort of reversal of this verdict, I think it's pretty clear that couldn't happen. Maybe out of the 16 convictions, maybe he could get rid of one or two along the way because of some inconsistency or technicality. But I don't think the jury was buying it. I thought his defense was really paltry, weak at best, and I don't think the public has got a taste for it, and they're not going to tolerate it. And that's what the jury said in the verdict today. So I don't know where he goes, to be honest with you. He's going to waste some more time and give himself a little bit of more freedom, but somewhere along the line he's going to have to pay, whether it's house arrest or club fed, some farm someplace, but he's gonna wind up having to pay for his crime.
Now, Bob Auth, I feel like there are people out there, some that have called me recently saying that this is all a witch hunt. This is lawfare from Biden and even from Obama, who both have expressed disdain for Bob Menendez's support for a Republican's position on Iran, and that they're coming after him for being hawkish on Iran when they're in the business of appeasing Iran. What do you think of that?
Well, I agree, first of all, on his positions on Iran. I agree with his positions on Cuba. And I've told him as such. I was at an event for the USS Ling in Hackensack a couple of years back when he was under indictment the first time. And I told him, okay, you got problems here, but I'm going to tell you flat out, I agree with you on these two positions. Is there a possibility that the Justice Department has been weaponized by Biden and Obama over those things? Certainly that could be a case. However, the issue about the gold bars, the DNA, the money with the DNA and all the other things associated with that, that goes far beyond. That goes far beyond what people who have a conspiracy mindset can actually legitimize. There is no way you can tell me because he was a supporter of keeping Cuba exiled. He was a supporter of eliminating the deal with Iran that Obama was trying to reinstate or put into place initially. That for any reason whatsoever vindicates him for having gold bars, money, cash with DNA all over it, a car for his wife. His wife was involved in an accident where she actually killed somebody, and that was brushed underneath the carpet. I mean, the family's still looking for justice there, too. So you can't mix the two of them together and say, well, this is happening, and subsequently they're convicting him of all these other items that have nothing to do with Cuba or Iran. So it's too much for the public to swallow.
Now, you mentioned something that is of note, and actually not far from where I live in Bogota, New Jersey. That is where this accident took place, where the woman, his wife, killed the person in the accident, and apparently there was not a lot of media coverage. It was kind of concealed, I'm guessing, by law enforcement. What do you know about that? What can you tell us?
I read articles in our local paper after he had been indicted for the gold bars. Then all of a sudden, all this started coming out. Now, apparently, she was involved in an accident. She killed somebody in Bogota, as you mentioned. There was never a DUI. Normally, if there's a death by vehicle in New Jersey, automatically they do a drug and breathalyzer test to determine whether or not there was any narcotics or alcohol in play during the time the vehicle was being operated. And none of that was done. There was issues about how the police report was written. Apparently, he had gotten on the phone with somebody to really subvert the process to her benefit. And he did such a good job that no one heard about it for the longest time. Not until the U.S. attorney started bringing out all this information about the gold bars, the money, the car. And the car, of course, was a replacement of the car that was busted up in the car accident. It was towed away. She never got that car back.
Wow. Very, very interesting stuff. So what do you think? I know you mentioned a couple of... Go ahead.
2 tiers of justice, Rich.
Sure. Yeah, well, I think
Justice
that's
for
always
you
the
and me,
case,
and
right?
then justice for him. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. If one of us, God forbid, gets into something like that, I doubt it goes that well for us. But what do you think about the sentencing here? Because I'm curious. Okay, so he's found guilty. What does that mean? Is it like Trump, where they're looking for 100 years on each charge? Giving him hundreds of years in jail, or what do you think Menendez ultimately gets if this guilty verdict stands?
Well, this is a very unique case. If he were a Republican, they throw the book at him like they did with Trump. What were they saying? Up to 200 years he could possibly get. I'm expecting that the judge doing the sentencing, it's in New York. He's a Democrat. Judge is probably a Democrat. And unless he's getting marching orders from the White House or from the Obamas, he'll probably give him a pretty light sentence. On the other hand, if they're really trying to make him suffer and rub his face in it, they could go. I mean, he could get up to 200 years? Well, he won't make that, but they could really make his life miserable if they want to. So I couldn't venture a guess because that inside part of the game I'm not that familiar with. I mean, I just don't, not that I don't have an understanding of it, but I don't have any inside information. So I don't know how bad they want to make him suffer. They're going to make him lose his office. He'll probably lose any of the benefits of the office. That'll all go away, I'm guessing. And he'll have to do some time and suffer the humiliation of that as well. So,
right
I mean, don't forget, that guy has been, for 20 years, he's been a pretty powerful guy. People would humble themselves in front of him, and he took full advantage of that.
Do you think his independent run for the U.S. Senate takes off?
No, but this is actually another a paradox here. We have a guy running for the U.S. Senate, Curtis Bashaw, and his chances of winning were dramatically increased with Menendez in the race as an independent. Now, while he's on appeal, he may very be able to continue that race as an independent, and he may draw some votes away from the Democratic candidate Andy Kim. But after the way the jury found, with all 16 counts being found guilty, I think most voters are going to look at his run as an independent as a spoiler, and Democrats voters are too smart to go for that. They're going to want their candidate in. They'll go right around him and they'll vote the line, or there won't be a line, but they'll vote for the Democratic candidate, or they'll vote for the Republican. I don't think he's going to be a consequence in the election whatsoever.
All right, Bob Auth, I want you to stick with me. We're going to come right back. We're going to discuss what's going on with the RNC. I know that you're a delegate, and I want to get the scoop from you. Folks, we're coming right back with Assemblyman Robert Auth.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue our conversation with Assemblyman Robert J. Auth. Bob Auth is Assemblyman for District 39 in New Jersey. And Bob, you're at the RNC. I know that you're a delegate to the RNC, and I want you to hear what Senator Marco Rubio from Florida had to say moments ago.
Our country has been injured by the bad decisions of weak leaders. But now, though bloodied by our wounds, we must stand up and we must fight. Fight not with violence or destruction, but with our voices and our votes. Fight not against each other, but for the hopes and dreams we share in common and make us one. And fight for an America where we are safe from those who seek to harm us on our streets and from abroad. And we will not be alone in this fight. For leading us in this fight will be a man who, although wounded and facing danger, he stood up and raised his fist and reminded us that our people and our country are always worth fighting for.
Bob Auth, that's Marco Rubio. You were there. You heard it. What was the energy in the room like? How do you react to everything that's going on?
Well, he crushed it. Let me tell you something. He had the crowd on their feet. He was hitting all the hot buttons. He's a smart guy.
Yeah.
First of all, he has immigrant roots. He understands completely what oppression is. He's like my wife. She's the same thing. Immigrant roots, comes from a communist country, understands that freedom is the thing that we really need to know. That was a visceral speech. And it was something that you could tell. It was coming from deep inside him. He may have had it on the monitor, but that speech wasn't written for him. That was a speech that he had a tremendous amount of input on to make that happen tonight. And I thought the audience was 100% accepting. He understands foreign invasion. He understands domestic invasion. He understands that there are serious problems right now, and this is the time to address them before they get out of control. And he just laid it out piece by piece, iteration by iteration. He just made it. He made the audience become emotionally involved and understand completely. That's what happened there tonight.
Now, Bob Auth, something that Marco Rubio mentioned and what he's talking about, obviously he's talking about the resilience of President Trump in the face of this attempted assassination on his life this Saturday, just a couple of days ago. And while I think many of us in the conservative movement believe that this was bound to happen, that, there's tons of people that want Trump dead, I think we were all still shocked that it happened, and it happened in Pennsylvania of all places. What do you think happens now? Do you think this solidifies Trump's chances more? Do you think it brings more people over to the Trump column? Do you think it causes the media to overreact more? What say you?
Well, I think that whole event showed Trump's humanity, and people were trying to dehumanize him for 4 years. They've been, since he got into office, they were trying to do that to him, and for the purpose of getting him out of office. Well, he's there, and blood's running down his face, and he gets up. He says, "Look, I want to get my shoes on," and he sits there and puts his fist up. He was not going to back down, and he was the embodiment in a single person of the American nation. And the American nation is the same way as that man acted that Saturday when that happened. to this day, I can't look at that. I can't look at that and say to myself how anybody could be so resilient. There were people in the audience tonight. I know you were watching it, but you couldn't see it. There were people in the audience in solidarity with him wearing a white bandage on their ear. I'm betting you're going to see more of that. Yeah, it was awesome. A couple of ladies and some news reporter was asking the audience, they're saying, well, who told you to do that or whatever? She said, I saw somebody else do it, and I like it too. It's going to catch on fire. And like I said, Americans are a resilient bunch. We have that touch of revolution in us ever since the Declaration of Independence and the founding. And this guy just personified it the other night, and he reminded Americans they got a backbone, and we got to stand up straight. And that's exactly what he did. He got shot, and he stood up straight. I'm just so proud of that man, really.
Yeah, I think we all are. Folks, we're on with Assemblyman Robert Auth from New Jersey. We're coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. Open Phone America. Your phone calls are coming up right now. 833-4-VALDEZ, 833-482-5337. Our guest, Assemblyman Robert J. Auth, CEO of Plaza Travel, New Jersey Assemblyman, 39th District. Bob, Assemblyman Auth, I want to ask you a question. A lot of people giving a lot of mixed reaction to the nomination of Ohio Senator J.D. Vance as the vice presidential running mate for Donald Trump. What say you?
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't know anybody more qualified to make that judgment than Donald J. Trump himself, first of all. And I know he's doing it on behalf of the American people. Let's take a look at J.D. Vance. Rich, he's like you and me. You started with next to nothing. I started with next to nothing. Yep. We built ourselves up. Well, that guy did it too, and he had next to nothing in spades because his parents left him. His grandparents raised him. He went into the Marines. He came back out. He took an opportunity. He went to school. He went to Yale Law School. He became an investment mogul in his own right, doing all the things the right way, making money legitimately, building a family. He's got a beautiful wife. I don't know if you've seen her. She's lovely. This guy, and he's only 39 years old. Tell me how many people do that under those conditions. Not too many. He's an exceptional
Sounds like
man.
a win. Assemblyman Bob Auth, I want to thank you for joining us. Send everybody over there in Wisconsin a big hello from me. And you are a patriot, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Have a great night. Talk to you soon.
Bet. Yes, sir. And folks, Open Phone America is coming up right now. 833-4-VALDEZ is the number. Get your calls in early so you're not on hold forever. Don't go anywhere. Rich Valdez coming right back.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be here with you this Tuesday night. We're live, we're national, we're covering the RNC. It's Open Phone America, and the phone number is 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And a lot to talk about. Gold Bar Bob has been found guilty on all charges. We just had some conversation about that. We also spoke with RNC Chairman Michael Whatley earlier. We spoke with Assemblyman Robert Auth. We also had our very own Steve Futterman from Westwood 1 as a correspondent from the RNC in Milwaukee. So lots we've covered and lots to come. President Biden was revealed to be baboso in a interview that he did. The unedited version of the interview was released, and man, you want to hear this. You're going to hear it shortly. We also have, let's see, we also have Joe Biden at the NAACP. That's a big story today. And the story that I wanted to get into it with you right away was this one with Jack Black, who has canceled his tour with the band Tenacious D after one of his bandmates made some comments. Listen to this.
Happy birthday, dear Kyle. Happy birthday to you. Make a wish, Canada. Don't miss Trump next time.
You heard the comment there, right? They sang Kyle Gass happy birthday, and they tell him to make a wish. His wish, he says, don't miss Trump next time. Now, listen, I don't think it's couth. I don't think it's in good form, and I think they're going to treat him how they're going to treat him. But I would not expect anything else from the left. Honestly, I wouldn't expect anything else, even from the right. In all honesty. Now, if the example is if Ted Nugent is performing, if Lee Greenwood is performing, and somebody were to say happy birthday to them, would either of those guys say that? I think absolutely not. I don't think that would be the case. But do I think if I got invited to a barbecue on Long Island or, somewhere where there's a lot of conservatives and, at some point maybe there's some conversation about it, if the role was reversed, I think it might come up, and some might laugh, some might not. But it seemed like that whole place laughed. And that, to me, is more concerning than him saying it. The fact that all those people thought that was so funny. Literally a day after this whole thing happened. Maybe 2 days max. That's crazy. But anyway, Jack Black, the actor and the comedian, he's canceled his tour dates with Tenacious D after his bandmate made this Trump assassination attempt joke. And yeah, listen, good for him. Good for Jack Black, because he didn't want to get canceled. I'm guessing he knew what was going on. But according to him, here's the quote from him. He says, I was blindsided by what was said at the show on Sunday. I would never condone hate speech or encourage political violence in any form. Again, that's Black, who is a supporter of President Biden's reelection bid. And he posted that to Instagram earlier today. Now, let me see what else we got. He went after much reflection. I no longer feel it is appropriate to continue the Tenacious D tour, and all future creative plans are on hold. Black continued. I'm grateful to the fans for their support and understanding. I could barely read that. Unbelievable. Anyway, so that's where he lands on this, right? And this was, again, his response to what is going on by Kyle Gass. Now, what's interesting here is there was a lot of backlash to this joke that everybody laughed at when he made it. Well, anyway, it gets better. So now Kyle Gass of Tenacious D has been dropped by his talent agency after the Trump shooting remark. Now, listen, I am a free speech guy. I don't like any of these comments. But just imagine if it were me. And I'm not saying I would make such a comment, but I think people have to be free to make comments. Just imagine some talent agency telling me, you know what, we're not going to do X, Y, and Z because, we're dropping you. You're not allowed. We're not going to find work for you anymore because you made a snide comment or a rude hate speech comment about Joe Biden. Man, that's crushing news. I make a lot of comments about Joe Biden. Just imagine that. And again, I would never call for his death. I would never do any of those things. But my point is, he meant it as a joke. And I don't mean to defend the guy. I really don't. I just think, this whole idea of cancel culture where people are, you're automatically canceled. I applaud what they're doing in so much as saying, look, we're taking a stand on this thing. What happened was serious. We don't think it's cool. You shouldn't joke about it. And this is why we're doing that. Kudos to them. But I have to remain true to myself. And in myself, I realize that whether we're talking bad about Trump or we're talking bad about Biden, I like Voltaire, I may not agree with what you said, but I'm going to defend your right to say it because that's the business I'm in. I have this tattoo on my forearm. It's the Statue of Liberty, an American flag, and a microphone with headphones on it because it's what I live. And I think I'd be a hypocrite to say anything else. So those are my thoughts on this. If you want to give me your thoughts, you may not agree with me, and that's okay. Give me a call, 833-4-VALDES, 833-4-VALDES, or 482-5337. Now, there was another story I wanted to get into with regards to what's going on here. But I'll save that for when we come back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
That the greatest purveyor and promoter of political violence, really, since anyone can remember, since George Wallace, I think, that we just haven't experienced that kind of open, sort of citing or sort of incitement of violence or sort of luxuriating in the idea of violence. It's just not something we're used to anymore in American politics. And then we had to get used to that being a thing. And people are concerned and expressing concern that we won't be the guardians of memory. And that we will allow Donald Trump, as he is, bathed in the glory and grandeur of his party, to rewrite himself as both a hero and a victim, that people who are the most vulnerable to not just the things he's done, but the things he's promising to do, and that will then happen without a guardian saying, wait, stop, and then the media will acquiesce to this rewrite. And the people that I've been talking to don't accept the rewrite.
Unreal. Oftentimes I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. Rewrite. First of all, people are allowed to rewrite themselves, number one, and he's not even doing that. What he's doing is undoing how they rewrote him. They made him out to be a threat to democracy. They made him out to be a racist. They made him out to be the orange man bad. It's they that did that. And now that the record is being corrected, not necessarily by him, but by they themselves, by the actions that they have taken against Donald Trump. The fact that they put 4 felony indictments, 2 federal cases, 2 local cases, 400 years in jail, 2 impeachments, one of them when he wasn't even president. People are seeing this and they're like, man, it's overkill. It's insanity. You guys are using the legal system to go after your political opponent. You can't beat him fair and square at the ballot box, so you want to try and put him in jail. But wait, there's more. Now we're going to shoot at the guy to try and kill him while he's giving a speech. Everybody sees this clear as day, Joy Reid. How do you miss it? How does Joe El Baboso Biden miss it? How does Adam Kinzinger miss it? I don't understand. I really don't. You've got to be a special kind of special, I'm going to use that word, to really believe that Trump is trying to rewrite. Trump's not rewriting anything. Trump didn't shoot himself. Trump didn't indict himself. You've got to be kidding me. When you showed your ugly hand, people realized what game you were playing. And now for Joy Reid to say that he can't paint himself both as a hero and a victim, he's been the victim all along. And yes, now he gets to be a hero because he got shot in his ear, got up, pumped his fist, and said, fight, fight, fight. Because he believes in something bigger than himself. And that's something, or I should say that's someone, the Lord above, saved his life. And that's the bottom line. Joy Reid is so out of touch with reality. She's guided by her hate. Listen, I don't like Joe Biden. I don't. But I don't want the guy dead. And I'm not blind to my bias against him. I'm not. I just disagree with the guy, and I don't want him in office. Some of you listening might think, well, Rich, you're a better man than me because I can't stand him. And if I had the chance, all right, that's it. I never go that route. And the reason I don't go that route, that's why. Because different people get set off different ways. And I'm not going to be the guy that's going to set the stage for that kind of nonsense. I don't think we should kill our political opponents. When I say the Democrats are destroying America, I believe that. They're destroying the fabric of the country I grew up in. My kids are growing up in a different country, a country where my kids, who were raised largely in church, have been taught, whether they adhere to them or not, and modeled for them conservative political principles. And they hear me say things sometimes, and they're like, Dad, you're going to get canceled. Just because I'll say something about traditional marriage or about traditional gender roles. They're not offended by it. They just think, wow, you don't say that anymore. We don't say that anymore. No, we do say that. I say it all the time. And my point is, if my children react like that, just imagine how future generations are going to react to how life is being rewritten, how history is being rewritten, right? We're in a different place now. We're in a completely different place. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Joy Reid. I want to get to your calls. There's plenty of calls to get to. Let's go ahead and go to, let's see. Let's go to Chris, Gainesville, Georgia, WDUN. Chris, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdez.
Hi. I just wanted to say I disagree with you a little bit because if Gass does have the right to say what he wants to say, but Jack Black also has the right to work with someone or not work with someone according to what they believe.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Understand. Yes.
Go ahead. Yeah. No. Anyway, I was just saying I agree with that. I think that's 100% right, and I also support everybody in that audience. You know, I'm really shocked that they laughed, and that to me is the worst part of the story is how many people in that audience laughed. But I would have loved it if half the audience or 3/4 of the audience got up and left. To me, that would have been like, hey, you know what? We just voted with our feet. We're letting you know. And again, I'm not saying that they shouldn't cancel him, and I just think, man, you know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And again, I don't expect to say things like, you know, we shouldn't have missed with Biden. I think that's a joke in poor taste. We're talking about somebody's life here. But I will make lots of jokes about Biden and Obama and all the rest of them. And I would hate for someone to tell me that I can't get a job because of those things. And I'm sure that's happened to me already, right? I can't work in the regular world like everybody else because my opinions are everywhere and people know what. There's so many companies right now that say that, you know, if you have a robust opinion on your social media about politics, you're not a right fit for their company, right? That's already a thing. So just imagine, it wouldn't touch me with a 10-foot pole. But my point is, it's just, I just believe in the freeness of speech. And you're right, Jack Black has the freedom to say, look, I don't want to work with you. I don't like what you said. Good for him for doing that. I think that's a good thing. I think it's a bad thing that Mr. Gass said what he said. I think it's in poor form. I think it was stupid. It was insensitive. It doesn't help at all. But I just think that when talent agencies are saying that, you know, we're going to get rid of you, again, maybe it's a good message that's being sent because of the severity of what he's saying. I agree with that. I would never support somebody saying something about the Holocaust, where they killed people. I wouldn't support somebody saying something about Trump. I'm not supporting his statement about Trump. I'm just supporting overall free speech, because ultimately I think we need to be able to say what we want to say. We have to be able to make and take jokes. And I don't think he meant it in an ill-spirited way, at least from what I heard. I think he was trying to be funny. He's probably a jerk that doesn't like Trump. I get that. There's a lot of jerks that don't like me. And I'm sure they make lots of jokes. If you go through my Twitter, you'll see they say stupid things about me all the time. Very rude things, by the way. I guess I just I've developed a thick skin in this business. And I know Trump's skin's thicker than everybody's. He's been through the ringer, more times than anybody else. And I just think it's a dangerous place to be in, where we're afraid to talk and where people are going to police our speech. When that woman, I forget her name now, Jankowski or whatever her name was, who was the disinformation czar, was put into place by the Biden administration, I didn't like that. And I don't like anyone policing anyone's speech. I think we should police our own speech. And if you're in a position where people listen to you and spend money on you, buy products that you endorse, anything like that, that is how you will ultimately pay the price, because you are responsible to your constituency. But Chris, thank you. I appreciate your thought on that, and I agree with you that Jack Black definitely has the right to decide who he works with. Let me see. Where do I go here? With 90 seconds. Let's go to, I don't. Do we have 90 seconds or is it less? 1:15. Yeah, I don't want to cut anybody off. All right, so you know what? We don't go to anybody yet. I will go to your calls when we come back, and a little preview of what we got. We got calls in Idaho, Oregon, Florida, another call from Oregon. We got 2 Oregonians calling us. New York, South Carolina, Ohio, Kentucky, and California. Going to get with all of you straight ahead. Again, anybody else wants to join the conversation, we have a couple of lines that are still open. 833-4-VALDEZ, 833-482-5337. And Joe Biden at the NAACP convention. I got some audio clips from him, plus the audio, unedited audio of the interview he did that his team said, look, you have to edit this so that he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. That's crazy. They blew the lid off of that on Sky News. I think it was in Australia. So we're gonna give you that report when we come back, and then straight to your calls. 833-4-VALDEZ. Don't go anywhere, folks. It's Rich Valdez coming right back. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
It's been revealed that the Biden camp requested that a Wisconsin-based talk radio station edit out the president's blunders from an interview earlier this week, something that civic media agreed to as part of the conditions of securing the interview with the president. Now we are watching this backfire. The unedited interview has been released, and just wait until you hear what the president said.
In addition to that, I have more blacks in my administration than any other president, all of the presidents combined, and major positions, cabinet positions. I don't know if they even call for their hanging or not, but
Hold on a second. I've got more blacks in my cabinet than anybody else, and I don't know if I called for their hanging or not? What is going on? Go ahead, play the tape.
But they said they're convicted of murder.
There are no words. It is sad and it is cruel. The American people deserve better than this. Joe Biden is the laughingstock of the world, and each day it feels a little bit more painful.
Wow. Really? This is, again, we only see what they allow us to see, right? We all create this caricature of Joe Biden in our minds from what we're able to compile from media, from the clips that I play, from what you see on TV, what he puts out on social media. But that's it. I don't know if anybody here really knows Joe Biden. Maybe some of you have met him before, but for the most part, nobody really knows the guy, right? And when you hear him in this unedited manner, I've got more blacks in my administration. You know, Trump said something like that 4 or 5 years ago, and they were like, what? How dare you? And then he goes on, I don't know if they're whatever, and then he talked about if they're hanging or not, and for murder, the craziest things, right? Absolute crazy stuff. Now, I think I can get the gist of what he's trying to say, but the fact that he says what he says the way he says it is just surreal to me. And, of course, they want to edit that stuff. I mean, I can't imagine, imagine Joe Biden with a live radio show, right? A late night one at that, where he might get tired and doze off and this and that. I mean, it would be quite the show. Anyway, I want to get to your calls, your thoughts on everything we're talking about, whether it's Biden, whether it's the convention or anything else. Let me see. Let us go with Vicky, Orville, California, KMYC. Go right ahead.
Hi. I was wanting to say that I agree with your point that people should be able to say whatever they want to say. Saying someone is deranged or has dementia is one thing, but when you're a celebrity and you've got people who are following you and look up to you, and you say something like that, don't miss Trump, then that could be a problem. I mean, obviously they're not there for the music. They're probably there because they are just fans of Jack Black, and that's all it takes is obviously if somebody else did the same thing. So I don't know. When it comes to something like that, I think you need to be very careful.
I agree with you. I think anybody who has a platform, you got to be very, very careful. You got to be responsible with the ability that you have, and that's why I don't talk smack like that. I really don't, and I wouldn't. I think it's again in poor form when Kathy Griffin did it with the severed head and effigy of Trump, and they put it on the cover of a magazine. I thought all this horribly done in extreme poor taste. It really is. And you're right. It kind of it opens the door to more people who look up to you, people who follow you, people who admire your work. And the last thing you want to do is start to normalize bad behavior. So listen, I get it. And I condemn what he says. I just have to defend all people's rights to say what they want to say. Like when, Netanyahu gets on the microphone and says, we won't stop until we eliminate Hamas. That may be very controversial for some people, and they want to call him a bigot. They want to call him this. They want to call him that. But I'm going to defend his free speech right, at least in so much as it happens, in the context of this program, because how could I not? Right? We have to allow people to say what's on their mind, not necessarily this performer, or I should say, not specifically this performer. Saying that they should have gotten Trump. I think it's, again, in extremely poor taste and can be something that leads others to think about doing things that they shouldn't do, or at least normalizing those things. And after what we saw this weekend, that's exactly the type of talk we don't need. So, yeah, I agree with you, Vicky, in Orville, California. Where is Orville, California? Is that like close to L.A.?
About an hour,
Sacramento.
hour and a half north of Sacramento. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I appreciate hearing from you. Thanks for listening to the show and for calling in. I hope you'll call in again sometime soon. I really appreciate it. Let us continue. Let's go to Otis in Morgantown, Kentucky, WKCT. Otis, go right ahead. We're going to put you on hold, Otis. It's hard to hear you. It sounds like you're on speaker. But we will call, we will go. Let's go to Jerome, Charleston, South Carolina. Jerome, go right ahead.
Hey, Rich.
Yes, sir.
It's hard to believe, for me to believe that anyone would say anything bad about you. I mean, you're one of my favorite Republicans. Well, why
I don't know if that's a diss or a compliment.
I love. Hey, look here. I gotta ask you. Do Nikki Haley and J.D. Vance, do they have any shame? Do they have amnesia? Can they remember anything they say from one?
Well, I think, listen, politics is one of those types of games, right? Where you have critics and you have people that will criticize you, kind of like Kamala Harris, who pretty much called Joe Biden a racist for opposing busing. And the next thing you know, she's his VP candidate. So, I mean, not too different than what we're seeing with Vance. I think the difference here is I don't believe that Joe Biden picked Kamala Harris because he wanted someone that would challenge him and that once believed differently. I think he picked her, like he said, because he wanted a black woman, right? He was checking boxes on the DEI chart. However, I will say, whatever differences of opinion people have on why he chose Vance, I can tell you this. I think it's very interesting that Trump chose Vance. And the reason I think it's interesting is because you don't have to go too far. You just look at some of the media reports. Watch this. Hillbilly hated Hitler Trump, blasted MAGA's racism. And it goes on and on. There's a ton of articles about how much J.D. Vance trashed Trump. And again, that's a bit of a concern to me. But if you're Trump and you're thinking outside the box, I think this is how the thinking goes. I'm going to get somebody who once hated me genuinely, didn't like me, thought I was a racist, and thought I was a Looney Tune. And I'm going to get that guy to help me get elected because he believes that this guy's genuine, not just looking for a job. And because of that, J.D. Vance is going to be on the campaign trail all across this country telling people, like some of you, I also didn't like Trump. And he's going to make the case of how he came about, how he got from being one way with Trump to being another, what he learned about Trump, how he was impressed and swayed by the things once he learned who Trump was. And let me tell you, that's probably going to be some of the most effective campaigning, in particular for independents. And with J.D. Vance's boyish looks at 39 years old, I think he's going to do well with a lot of independent voters. So I think Trump really thought outside of the box on this one. And from that perspective, I think he made a good choice. Jerome.
Were they lying then or are they lying now?
No, I don't. Honestly, I don't think so. I happen to be one of those people, maybe even like you, where I've always had a very similar opinion. My opinion doesn't change on too many things, but sometimes it does. Right? I used to tell my brother, you're insane if you think they're going to send 10 or 20 million people here through the border. That'll never happen. It happened. You know, he told me this in 2017. Here we are in 2024, and we've got, 10 to 20 million people that are in this country from other countries. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they are. That's not good. So I can say my opinion on that has changed. I believe that there's probably sleeper cells. There's probably a lot of, like Trump would say, bad hombres in this country that came by way of the southern border. There's clearly an army in this country. We just don't know where they are and when they become active, if they ever do. So I changed my opinion on that particular point. But I think Vance had a chance to meet Trump. And this is the same thing I said about Biden before. We have caricatures of people, what the media allows us to hear and see and know them. And oftentimes it takes you meeting them, having a conversation with them, where ultimately you're like, you know what? This is not what I expected. This person is better or worse. And you get to make a real judgment. Jerome, thanks for the call, brother. Appreciate it. Big shout out to you. Folks, we're coming right back with your calls and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Best head of hair in live late night radio 6 years in a row. It's Rich Valdez.
All right, let's continue with your calls and more. Let's go to Monica, Pendleton, Oregon, KUMA, West Coast in the house. Go ahead, Monica.
Hi, how are you doing this evening?
Wonderful, thank you.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I just wanted to respond. It was oddly, Saturday when this whole thing went down, I was oddly watching a speech from former President Trump that occurred in Nevada. And I thought it was live because it said YouTube Live or whatever that was. Finally, I finished that, and then I see a blurb on my tablet, something about him being rushed off in Pennsylvania. Then I turned back, And I'm like, what? So then I watched the footage, and I was just in absolute shock, disbelief,
Yeah.
And I'm really happy that, he's okay, and the bullet, shattered glass, whichever, missed him. It's still, I pray for the family who's lost a couple of attendees there.
Yeah, and go ahead.
I was going to say, I want to say prayers to the family of the shooter. I don't know how to approach it. I don't know how to approach that.
Honestly, Monica, I think you're right. There's a lot of people in a situation like this that suffer. And the son of this family, this Mr. Crooks, 20 years old, I'm sure his parents, I'm going to hope, right, benefit of the doubt here, I'm going to hope that his parents didn't raise a killer, and they didn't raise somebody that's going to go and shoot a potential president of the country, former president. So I'm sure they're shocked and beside themselves that this happened with their child. And so, of course, those people, I'm sure are coveting the prayers of many, as are the family of the former fire chief who shielded his family, Corey Comparator, and the other person that was injured, and of course Trump, who skirted death by the hand of God. But it was traumatic for a lot of people that were there. I think everybody there is deserving of prayerful support for sure. And I think it's kind of you to suggest that. Monica in Pendleton, Oregon, KUMA, thank you for your call. Let's go to, there was Ulysses, Clifton Park, New York, WGDJ, Paul V. Country. Go right ahead.
Good evening, sir. Buenos noches, mi amigo. ¿Qué pasa?
Buenas noches. What's going on?
I just wanted to say that I grew up in a time when my father is a Korean War veteran and a Vietnam War veteran. He passed away.
Oh, thank you for his service.
I thank him, too. I love him to death. I'm an Iraqi War veteran myself. I'm his son out of 6 boys and 1 girl. The times that I grew up in, I was a little boy. I saw the Kennedy assassinations, the assassinations of Hajj Malik el-Shabazz, commonly known as Malcolm X. I saw Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. I seen Medgar Evans' assassination. I seen Robert Kennedy's assassination, and I thought that era of stupidity and ignorance was over.
Yeah.
To me, there is no way to laugh about it. To me, that is a sickness. You don't laugh about it. You don't joke about it. And I understand that you want to make sure that everyone has their right to speak their mind. True. But I am so very glad that gentleman does not have representation from his union where they're seeking work for him. I think he should have been cut off when he said that, and I'm glad they cut him off. But I do stand for free speech. But there's a point.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Just like the Second Amendment, or I should say the First Amendment, and I agree with you on this. I think the guy should have the right to say what he wants to say, right? And by the right, I mean by the government. The government giving us the right to say what we want to say. He has that right. I defend that right. Now, in the context of employment, in the context of delivering services and goods to customers and constituents, if you screw up your job, you're going to pay the price. And I support that as well, right? So, yeah, good for him for being held accountable. I make the example of creating this trend. Now, with this specific thing, sure, if people are going to talk about the trivialization of assassination attempts on presidents or anybody else for that matter, then they know now there is a standard. There's a precedent that's been set. What the left does is they go ahead and they take that and then they want to do it to everybody for every reason, right? So I'll make a joke about Joe Biden calling him baboso because he's a bumbling, drooling idiot. And they'll say that it's elder abuse, it's hate speech, and that I should be canceled. Now, I don't support that. Not because it's me. I don't support it because I think we have to have a range of free speech. And if we start supporting every last thing. Now, I think death is a good place to draw the line. I don't think we should trivialize death, call for death, or any type of violence for that matter, unless it's warranted, unless it's some sort of child abuser that's coming after your kids. But ultimately, if you give the left an inch, they'll take a foot. And that's really the point that I'm making, that we have to defend free speech in so much as we can, because it's not the circumstance that we're defending. It's the premise of it. And in this situation, it's warranted. But outside of this situation, the left can try and use that against you. And that's really the overall point that I'm making. We have to protect our right to free speech outside of our right from the government, which obviously they don't give us that right. It comes from God, but it's enforced by the government. Outside from that, we have to be very, very careful. That's really it. And I always opt for defending people's rights to say what they want to say, with the hope that we as a people will police ourselves, starting with oneself. Thank you, brother, for your call. I appreciate it. I got to take a pause right here. We're coming back to the rest of your calls. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, to the phones we go. It's the speed round. Keep it super succinct. Let's go to Otis, Morgantown, Kentucky, WKCT. Go right ahead quickly.
Rich, I just want to say you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
I'm thankful to God that President Trump is okay, and I'm so sorry for those folks behind. Jesus said in the end that they'll kill you and say they're doing God's will. They are trying to cut off all debate except theirs in this country is what they're trying to do.
Yeah, listen, well said. And I think you're right. In the end days, lots of funny things are going to go down. I remember reading a scripture. It says, brother will turn against brother in the field, and et cetera, et cetera. And this is kind of the direction that they're pushing us in. Wise words from Otis in Morgantown, Kentucky, WKCT. Thank you, sir. Let us go to Walter, St. Augustine, Florida, WFOY. Quickly, go right ahead.
Hey, Rich, same subject. So happy you're a God-loving man, mentioning God often. And
Amen.
You said you have children, and you said children are a gift from God. Well, Psalm 127, verses 3-5 reads, "Look, children are inheritance from God, the fruit of the womb as a reward." And as far
Amen
as
to that.
today, you already got...
Yeah, I'm sorry. The music means they're cutting both of us off, Walter. But yes, Psalm 125. Everybody should read that one. Michael in Pendleton, Oregon on KUMA. I owe you. Paul in Boise. I owe you. Peggy in Akron, Ohio. I owe you too. WNIR. Folks, what a great show we had tonight. We've got another one coming up tomorrow. Hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night and God bless. I'm Rich Valdez.